Sarah Martinez stood in the kitchen of their Riverside apartment, her phone still pressed to her ear long after the call should have ended. "Love you," Marcus had said, warm and easy. "Just checking in before dinner gets crazy. You know how Dave's parties are." She'd smiled. Told him to have fun. She'd heard the click. But the line hadn't gone dead. 3 minutes passed before she realized she was listening to something else. Muffled voices, laughter, the clink of glasses. The phone was still connected, buried in his pocket, transmitting everything. "So when are you finally pulling the trigger?" a man's voice asked. "Dave." 2 months, Marcus replied casually, like he was discussing a car lease. "I need to wait until the business valuation closes. Her lawyer can't touch it if the paperwork predates the filing." Sarah stopped moving. Her grip tightened around the phone. "Smart man," someone said. "How long you been planning this?" Marcus laughed. It was a sound she knew well, the one he made when he was proud of himself. "Since the promotion. The second she made partner. I knew the payout would be worth it. California's a community property state. I just had to time it right." A low whistle. "Cold, bro. Ice cold." "It's not cold," Marcus said. "It's practical. I've been managing her for 3 years. Keeping her happy, keeping her focused. She thinks we're building something. I'm just collecting my share." Sarah lowered herself slowly into a chair. Her legs no longer trusted her. "And Clara?" Dave asked. "She's cool with waiting," Marcus said, his voice softening. "Intimate. Clara understands the game. She's patient. And God, she's worth waiting for. That woman is everything Sarah isn't. Sexy. Spontaneous. Fun in bed." The room erupted in crude laughter. Sarah ended the call. For a long time, she didn't move. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just breathed. Then she picked up her phone again and opened her messages. "Daniel, I need you to come over tonight. Don't tell anyone. Bring your laptop." His reply came seconds later. "On my way." Daniel arrived 40 minutes later with coffee and a leather messenger bag. At 29, he was a corporate forensic accountant and the only person Sarah trusted without hesitation. He took one look at her face and set the coffee down. "What happened?" She handed him the phone and pressed play. 37 minutes of audio. Mostly background noise. 4 minutes that mattered. Daniel listened without interrupting. When it ended, he sat very still. "How much does he think you're worth?" "The partnership buyout was $800,000, Sarah said, her voice mechanical. "The house is in both names, but I made the down payment. $400. My 401k, stocks, savings, another $300. Roughly $1.5 million. And he thinks he gets half." "California law," she said. "He's not wrong." Daniel leaned back. "Except." Sarah stood and walked to the counter. She pulled a slim folder from beneath a stack of unopened mail. "Except he doesn't know everything." 6 months earlier, her firm had offered her a different track, equity partner instead of salaried. It required a $3 million capital contribution. "I took a loan against my trust fund," she said quietly. Daniel's eyebrows rose. "Grandma's trust. He doesn't know it exists." It had been set up before she ever met Marcus. Revocable. Solely in her name. Not marital property. The loan is structured as a business investment. The equity doesn't vest for 18 months. Daniel's eyes sharpened. "So on paper?" "On paper, I'm leveraged to my eyeballs. Massive business debt. No liquid assets. The equity can't be counted until it vests. The house is technically underwater if you include the second mortgage I took for renovations." A slow smile spread across Daniel's face. "How much is he actually entitled to if you filed today?" "Maybe $200,000. Before legal fees." "Does he know about the second mortgage?" He never asked questions as long as his credit cards worked. Daniel opened his laptop. What do you need? I need everything on Clara. Employment, finances, social media, parking tickets, everything. She paused. And Marcus. Something in her tone made him look up. I need to know what he's been doing with our money. It took Daniel 3 days. They sat in Sarah's office at the firm, door closed. Marcus opened a business account 8 months ago, Daniel said, turning the laptop toward her. Cascade Consulting LLC. He's the registered agent and sole member. What kind of business? On paper, marketing consulting. And in reality? Daniel scrolled through bank statements. He's been funneling money from your joint account. Small transfers. 500 here. 1,000 there. 43,000 total. Sarah's jaw tightened. I reconcile that account every month. He was careful. Mixed the transfers with legitimate expenses. Easy to miss. Where is it now? 2 weeks ago, he moved 38,000 to a brokerage account. Daniel hesitated. In Clara's name. Silence. He's investing for her, Sarah said. With your money. Daniel clicked to another document. Clara Reeves. 31. Sales coordinator at a medical device company. Makes $60,000 a year. Rents a condo in Marina del Rey for $3,000 a month. Drives a BMW she can't afford. And according to Instagram, she just got back from Cabo. 5-star resort. Sarah's expression didn't change. He told you he was at a conference in Phoenix, Daniel added. There's a charge to that exact resort on your joint credit card. Still nothing. Then. There's more, Daniel said carefully. He pulled up corporate filings. 3 months ago, Marcus amended Cascade's operating agreement. Clara is listed as a 50% owner. Sarah went very still. He made her a business partner, Daniel continued, with your money. And if you divorce him, he can argue the company is a marital asset. But because she owns half, valuation gets complicated. He could drag this through court for years. Bleed you with legal fees. Sarah stared at the screen. He's been planning this longer than I thought. At least a year. She stood and walked to the window, gazing out over the city skyline. When she turned back, her expression was the one opposing counsel feared in depositions. Calm, surgical, lethal. I need you to do something else, she said quietly. And I need it done without a trace. 3 weeks later, the law firm of Martinez and Heller hosted its annual black tie gala at the Langham Hotel. 200 guests. Partners. Investors. Clients. Deals were made in rooms like that. Reputations were built, or destroyed. Marcus wore a new tuxedo. Sarah had bought it without comment. He looked good in it. He knew it. He didn't know she had already filed a sealed complaint in federal court alleging financial fraud and spousal breach of fiduciary duty. He didn't know Daniel had quietly forwarded documentation to the district attorney's white-collar crimes unit. He didn't know the brokerage account in Clara's name had been flagged for tracing misappropriated marital funds. And he certainly didn't know that at precisely 9:15 p.m., during Sarah's keynote speech, the ballroom screens would flicker to life. She stepped onto the stage, poised and radiant in deep emerald silk. Applause filled the room. She smiled at the crowd. Tonight, she began smoothly, I want to speak about integrity. Marcus lifted his glass. Across the ballroom, Dave shifted in his seat. Behind them, the projection screens illuminated. Bank transfers. LLC filings. The amended operating agreement listing Clara Reeves as 50% owner. A grainy but unmistakable audio clip echoed through the speakers. Since the promotion, I knew the payout would be worth it. The room went silent. Marcus didn't move at first. Then his glass slipped from his hand, shattering against the marble floor. Sarah's eyes found his. cool, steady. I believe, she continued calmly, that partnerships, business or personal, should be built on transparency. Security stepped quietly to Marcus's side as murmurs spread like wildfire. And when someone forgets that, she said, the law has a way of reminding them. Marcus's face drained of color. Clara, seated near the back as his +1, looked as though she might faint. Sarah closed her speech with effortless grace. The applause this time was slower, heavier. Not for him. For her. And as Marcus was escorted from the ballroom, his reputation collapsing in real time, Sarah felt something she hadn't expected. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Relief. He had called it practical. She preferred another word. Strategic. She wore a red dress that cost more than his tuxedo. It wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. The silk fell clean and deliberate, the kind of dress that made people look twice without understanding why. Simple. Controlled. Powerful. They arrived together. They smiled for the photographer. They moved through the ballroom like a perfectly synchronized pair. Marcus played his role flawlessly, attentive husband, proud supporter, charming conversationalist. He introduced Sarah to colleagues she'd known for a decade, laughed at stories she'd heard 100 times, kept his hand resting at the small of her back like a subtle claim. Possession disguised as affection. Sarah let him. At 8:30, the managing partner stepped onto the stage for the firm's annual address. He thanked clients, praised growth, recognized milestones. Then he announced the 3 new equity partners. Sarah's name was first. The applause was warm. Genuine. She walked to the stage, shook his hand, accepted a crystal plaque she would never display. When she turned to the microphone, the room quieted instantly. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was steady, carrying effortlessly across the ballroom. "I'm honored to stand here tonight. And I'm grateful to everyone who supported me on this journey." She paused. Let the moment breathe. "But I'd like to acknowledge something personal." Her gaze drifted across the crowd until it landed on Marcus. He was smiling, radiant with pride. "My husband," she continued, "has spent the last few months asking what this partnership truly means. What it's worth. How it affects our future together." Marcus's smile flickered. "So I thought I'd share the answer. Transparency matters, especially in a marriage." A soft murmur rippled through the room. Sarah reached into her clutch and removed a folded document. She unfolded it slowly, deliberately. 3 weeks ago," she said, "I filed for divorce." Silence. Not the polite kind. The absolute kind. Marcus's face drained of color. "I filed through independent counsel," she continued calmly. "Not through this firm. I wanted everything handled properly." She looked directly at him now. "I also hired a forensic accountant to review our finances. It's remarkable what you find when you actually look." A breath moved through the room. Joint accounts. Shell companies. $43,000 transferred from marital assets into an LLC created by my husband and his girlfriend. A gasp, sharp and involuntary, from somewhere near the back. "Her name is Clara Reeves," Sarah said evenly. "She's here tonight." Every head turned. Clara froze in her chair. "Neither of them knew that I knew." Marcus took a step toward the stage. Daniel stepped smoothly into his path. Unmovable. "Here's what happens next," Sarah continued. "The divorce is filed. Asset division has already been calculated. Because my husband was so concerned about my partnership, I made sure to time everything precisely." She folded the paper once, thoughtfully. "My equity does not vest for another year. It is not marital property. The capital I invested came from a trust established before my marriage. It is debt, not income. The house carries a second mortgage he never reviewed." She looked up. "After valuation and legal fees, Marcus is entitled to approximately $187,000. not the $750,000 he anticipated. Marcus looked like he might collapse. I have also filed a civil claim for recovery of the $43,000 misappropriated from our joint account. With interest and damages, that sum will significantly reduce his settlement. The room was still. No one touched their champagne. Oh, she added lightly, and I forwarded all relevant financial documentation to the IRS. Apparently, failing to report business income for an LLC is frowned upon. A few uneasy shifts in seats. They're very interested in speaking with him. Sarah stepped away from the microphone. The crowd parted instinctively as she descended the stage. When she reached Marcus, she stopped close enough that only he could hear her. "You said you were managing me," she said quietly. His eyes were wide, empty. "You were wrong. I was managing you. I just let you believe you were winning." She walked past him. Didn't look back. Daniel followed. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Marcus received $142,000 after deductions and legal costs. Clara left him 2 months into the proceedings when it became clear there was no fortune waiting. The IRS settlement cost him another $60,000 in taxes and penalties. He moved into a small studio apartment in Van Nuys. Sarah's equity vested on schedule. The $3 million capital investment doubled within 18 months, turning into a $6 million stake in the firm. She never remarried. She didn't need to. Some nights, she still remembered that phone call, the warmth in his voice, the casual cruelty when he thought no one was listening. But more often, she remembered the silence in that ballroom. The look on his face. The moment he understood. He hadn't lost because she was lucky. He lost because she was patient. Because she was strategic. Because he underestimated her from the very beginning. And that was his greatest mistake.